So what, we have 15 minutes and I've got 64 slides. This will go totally smoothly, I'm sure. My name is Scott Hanselman, and this talk is called Scaling Yourself. You can see the 90-minute version of this talk up on my website. Feel free to go and Google for Scott, or Google with Bing for Scott. That would be also cool. That's Darth Vader on a cat. That's awesome. I've been in software for a very, very long time. This was something I worked on, and I blog about community, and I've written some applications for the phone. I've got some books that I'm not very proud of. I've got a podcast that I'm proud of. I've got one called This Developer's Life that I do with Rob Connery that I'm very proud of. I've even got a video that I sell on how to be a good technical speaker. And a lot of people say, well, Scott, you're doing all this stuff. Why do you do it? Are you not sleeping? How do you stay productive? Why do you put all this effort into trying to be productive? And it's because I must dance. I can't stop. Whenever I think about stopping, I think about this little boy and how excited he is about doing what he's doing. Now, I try to give people advice on how to be productive, but when they don't take the advice, this is what I call them. Hopefully you'll take the advice. So it turns out that the less that you do, the more of it that you can do. This is the standard law of scale, right? Here's an actual graph that shows writing to dev null. See, the throughput goes up, and the latency is effectively nothing. Turns out that if you do nothing at all, you can do it infinitely. Now, the amount of information that one has to absorb has changed. In the old days, there was basically all this. That was all the information in the entire world. And then a little bit later, everything became 1,000 plus. Right? I mean, that's just emotional bankruptcy at this point, whether it be Google Reader or Gmail. If it says 1,000 plus, obviously, you just give up at that point. You should just declare that in the old days, I just had to know everything that was in those two books. But that was it. There was no internet. There was those two books, and I was alone in my mom's basement, and that was the sum of all human knowledge. And then the internet happened, and suddenly there's exabytes of information being created, and half of it is garbage, and a third of my day is wasted by interruptions. I'm completely overwhelmed, and we tell ourselves that we're going to be able to pull it off if we just work late tonight. Or, honey, it's just a really busy season for us right now, and just once March is over, or once April's over, after the summer, we'll be able to spend some time together. And I just need to work late to catch up. This is a danger side. This is a danger sign. There's also this phoniness that happens, this feeling of being a phony, and I've blogged about this. I'm actually on the first page if you Google for phony. That was actually not the plan, but if you Google for phony, my smiling face is like right there, like ding. So feeling like a phony is this idea that I've got so many emails, and I go to work, I do my 8 to 5 or my 8 to 6, I go home, we make dinner, they put the kids to bed, and then what do? We work until 2 in the morning. And we do it because someone's going to catch us and realize that we really have no idea what we're talking about, and we're just lucky to have a job. Everybody feels like that. But the thing is, hope is not a strategy. Hoping that you're going to get past this is not a strategy. So what are some things that we can do? I'm going to juxtapose two words. One is called effectiveness, and the other one is called efficiency. Effectiveness is goal orientation. This is picking something to do. This is doing right things. Picking a goal and doing that goal. That's effectiveness. I'm juxtaposing these two words because in English they're close, and in other languages they're even closer. Efficiency. I was in Bulgaria giving this talk and went back and forth with this Bulgarian guy before the talk because they use the same word to describe these two different things. And we had to come up with like a word for effectiveness and then a phrase to describe efficiency. So for people that don't speak English as a first language, effectiveness and efficiency can feel like the same word. But efficiency is doing things in an economical way, process-oriented. So phrased differently, effectiveness is doing the right things, but efficiency is doing things right. That means effectiveness is picking a direction and efficiency is running really fast in that direction. When you realize those two things are different, it becomes an extremely powerful tool that you can use. This is an example of being wholly ineffective. I don't know why he thought that was a good vector to go on. Now, you've got all this information that's coming in to your life, and I don't mean your email inbox. I mean the inbox of your life, your mail, do you have TiVo, like a DVR? You can tell it to record Dexter, and then it just fills up with all the Dexter shows, right? Okay, you have that. That's an inbox also. Now, I'm going to say these things need to be triaged, and I use the word triage very specifically. I didn't just say need to be dealt with, need to be handled, need to be managed. They need to be triaged. Because what does triage make you think about? It makes you think about the zombie apocalypse. Because when there's a zombie apocalypse and everyone's dead, we got to start triaging these bodies. We have this toe tag. Here's a toe tag. We have to go through all of these bodies that are in my parking lot and say, who's walking wounded, who is non-life-threatening, and then who is just pulseless. Notice that they don't say dead. They say morgue, pulseless, or non-breathing. Because it would be just sad to say dead people. That doesn't mean that we grab the first person and we deal with that person. We triage them, we sort them, we sift them. But isn't it funny that an ad for Viagra, an email from me, and an email from Steve Ballmer are all peers in our inbox, sorted only by date? So there's basically three kinds of work that David Allen from Getting Things Done talks about. There's predefined work, work you set up ahead of time. There's work that's interrupting you, and this is where we get in trouble. There's that urgent work. It must be really important. It just happened. But the most important thing is the defining of work. So rarely do we find ourselves doing that. How often have you actually put on your calendar 1 hour of time to say, I'm going to sit down and think about what work I need to be doing? No, we panic and we look at our to-do.text and we sort it and then we just kind of freak out for a while and then the to-do.text gets larger. As Brian said, dropping it is so powerful. Do it, drop it, delegate it, let someone else do it or defer it. But drop it is such an amazing thing to scale yourself. And when you're trying to decide what to drop, you can use Stephen Covey's quadrants. This is the importance axis and here's the urgency axis. When something is both urgent and important, like a pregnant wife or an appendix being burst, you should probably do that now. If it is neither urgent nor important, you should dump it. But unfortunately what happens is we spend our time on things that feel urgent but are not important at all. But the urgency is an addiction. Trivia, not urgent, not important. Crises, urgent and important. Phrased differently. Phones, in person, people dropping by your office, both urgent and important. Twitter, I'm going to focus on Twitter, neither urgent nor important. But I don't think any of you guys work because you're always on Twitter. Now, this is a picture of a mouse with an electrode attached directly to his brain, and he just has to push that lever to stimulate the pleasure center of his brain. If he wants to feel better, he just pulls to refresh that feeling of excitement, that kind of direct pleasure center of the brain. He just pulls to refresh and just pull to refresh, and you get that feeling of something has happened, I'm really getting work done. Do you remember when there was just one set of footprints on the beach? That's when Jesus unfollowed you on Twitter, because you were tweeting too much. Now, all systems that work, including the internet itself, have flow control. So drop packets. Communication by its nature is fault tolerant. If you've ever had a conversation with someone over a cell phone and a couple words drop out, you could still understand what they were saying, because communication as a nature is fault tolerant. Sometimes dropping the ball is the right answer. And when anyone ever calls me and suggests and asks me for suggestions on how they can get through this time in their life, and they list out all the things that they have to do, the first thing I say is, which one of these can you say no to? Even if you've already committed to it, what can you say, I can't do it? And for us as successful computer people, and I know we are successful computer people because we are here at a conference, which by its nature puts you at the top 1% of all computer people that exist because you came to a conference. That's amazing. You should feel really great about yourself for that. Is that saying no is virtually impossible to us. We love to say yes. We love to get things done. But you will feel so much better about yourself and you will get so much more work done when you can actually sprint and focus on something as opposed to juggling things. Also, there's this notion of psychic weight that people don't think about. And I brought up that issue of TiVo. We call it TiVo in the US, but the DVR. When this thing first came out, I could go and say, I want to watch Law & Order. And I hit record, get a season pass. And then suddenly there was like a whole Law & Order channel. It was there all the time. And I was like, what a joy. This is going to free up so much time because I can watch TV whenever I want to. But then I realized that this was psychic weight that was pressing me down because, okay, we got like 7 Law & Orders on the thing. Okay, we'll put the kids to bed early tonight and we're going to bang through Law & Order and then we're going to get this thing under control and we're going to handle it. And then we'll be back on track. So somehow this TiVo, which was this gift from God, this was this amazing, glorious productivity thing, has now become the primary source of psychic weight in my life. So I think about the things that I want to get done. I want to think about, what are the 3 things I can get done today? What are the 3 things I want to get done this week, this year? And if watching the entire 7 seasons of The Wire is one of those things, then absolutely put it on your list. But if not, it should probably be the first thing that you drop. When you're going through your week, you need to have a vision on Monday of what your week looks like. And on Friday, you need to stop and look back on your week and think about the reflection. Was that a successful week? What could I have done differently? What could I change? And then you do it all over again the next week. I think that being busy is a form of laziness. Being busy is not thinking about what you should be doing so that you're not so busy. We find ourselves just being busy. It turns out that being creative and making something is the opposite of hanging out. I'm always impressed when people that I see tweet a lot suddenly stop tweeting, and then maybe a week or 2 later or a month later, they'll come back with some amazing new creation. It's like, wow, that person just made a list of the things they needed to get done, and Twitter wasn't one of them, and they went off and they created, and then they came back and they shared it with us. It's the opposite of hanging out.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's true. Turns out arguing on Twitter is the worst thing that you can do, and we're all guilty of doing it. No one has ever come up to me and said, "Man, I am so glad that you argued with me on Twitter. Completely changed my life. I've converted to Buddhism now, and I've got a smaller house and we've got a Prius." Never happens if you talk to someone on Twitter. And when we think about things like efficiency, take the things, all the data streams. This is homework for you. Take all the data streams in your life, and I want you to sort them: signal versus noise. What provides you value and what doesn't? This is mine. I'm a community manager, so my community does a lot of phone and Skype and video calling. So that's important. Last thing, Google Reader and TiVo. Most powerful tool that you have in your arsenal is mark all as read. Just do it. And never look back, and don't feel bad, and just feel the release of the psychic weight. Sort your list. See how I've sorted my work email specifically with bosses versus people who have CC'd me on stuff. The one email rule that you need in your life, the one thing that will fundamentally change how you think about email, is if you put an inbox for stuff that you're CC'd on. And you train your boss. Next time your boss sends you a to-do and CC's you on it, don't do it. Don't do it, and then when he says, "Why didn't you do it?" "Oh, you CC'd me. I thought you were just informing me." He'll never do that again. Act on stuff that you are mailed directly, and stuff that's CC'd, it changes your life. Look at this. I took a 250 email inbox and chopped it down by 2/3 because the stuff in the inbox is important to me, and the stuff in inbox CC is not. I've extended that a little bit as a community person. Notice how the inbox external, my community, people who don't work for my company, they're important to me. I've answered all of their emails. Don't check email in the morning, because if you respond to email, they will write you back. The number one way to get more email is to answer email. So don't put more energy into things that you don't want to. And remember, if you're the person who answers email at 2 in the morning, you've just taught your boss that you're the person who answers email at 2 in the morning. Maybe you're doing that because you want to move up at the company, or maybe you're excited, but you've just taught them that you're addicted to urgency, and you literally have. Here's the thing to let you know how addicted to urgency you are. How many meters are you in the morning when you're sleeping from your phone? And if you don't have to do anything other than roll your body like this to check your phone, then you have a problem. When you're driving, put your phone in the trunk. Can't text when your phone's in the trunk, but you can still Bluetooth. When you're sleeping, put your phone across the room. So if you really have to answer the thing, go across the room. But more importantly, try not checking email until noon, and you will be surprised at how much work you get done. Because what happens if you check email in the morning, you time travel. You wake up at 9, and you check email, boom, it's lunch. And then you go to lunch, and boom, it's 2:30. And it's like, okay, it's 2:30, I'm going to start working now. That all happened because you checked email in the morning. Last one. I think I'm running out of time, right? How am I doing?
No, we actually have 10 more minutes because the others were so fast.
You're killing me. Well, I'll slow down then. Well, okay, so let's talk about conserving your keystrokes is a really important thing. If Brian emails me a really interesting question about, ASP.NET, as much as I like Brian as a person, and I enjoy his drunken emails, if he sends me an email, and I send him back an exciting and long 5-paragraph with a code sample email that solves his problem. I just gave him the gift of 10,000 of my keystrokes. But there is a finite number of keystrokes left in my hands before I die. And I am never going to get those keystrokes back. And I've just gifted them to Brian, and I don't even know if he read that email. So what should I do to multiply these keystrokes, given that there is a finite number of those keystrokes left in my hands? I write a blog post, and I mail him the link. And then after I'm dead, my keystrokes multiply. Every time I get a page view, that's 5,000 keystrokes that I did not have to type. You should never write a long email to someone, never more than 3 or 4 sentences. Anything longer than that should be on a blog or a wiki, or it should be in your product's documentation, or it should be on a FAQ or a knowledge base, or anywhere in the world except email, because email is where your keystrokes go to die. Are you guys familiar with the Pomodoro Technique? Any Pomodoro people here? Anyone have their official Pomodoro timer? The Pomodoro Technique is this amazing way to do personal scrums. Isn't it funny how the project manager on your team is the one with 1,000 emails that are unread in their inbox? It's funny how that works out. None of the programmers have any email, but the project manager's got basically email bankruptcy. Thousands of emails, can't manage their own life, but they're managing your project. Try running your life as a scrum. Do little tiny work sprints. Pomodoro is a unit of time. I think it means tomato in Italian. And the idea is that you have this timer, and you set the timer, and you put it down, and then you focus on one thing. No multitasking. You focus on one thing for 25 minutes. It's amazing. You won't be able to do it. You'll be vibrating with the need to multitask, and you'll just be like, and then you're like Alt-Tab, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And then suddenly you're on Reddit, and you're like, I didn't even touch anything. My brain just took me to Reddit. I don't know how it happened. When that happens, when you've interrupted yourself internally, just write it down. Just tick. Put a tick. So imagine you have a sheet of paper. It says, all right, I'm starting a Pomodoro. I'm starting a 25-minute work sprint. Every time I interrupt myself, I put a tick. Just to be aware of it. Just to think about it. To be aware of the number and type of interruptions. And then look back and reflect. And you say, you know, I interrupted myself 6 times in 25 minutes. And you're going to get numbers like that. But then you'll do it again, and you'll interrupt yourself twice. And then you'll interrupt yourself once. And then you won't interrupt yourself at all, and a Pomodoro will feel like that. And then you'll start thinking about a productivity in your life as how many Pomodoros that you got done in a day. And you'll say, man, that was a 4 Pomodoro day. I got a lot of work done. How many hours was that? It was like 2 hours, but that's not the point. It was like so productive because you were sprinting. Turn off toast. You guys know what toast is? Fred is online. Oh, thank God. Skype, I don't know Fred has a birthday. I don't even know who Fred is, but Skype felt the need to interrupt me with a piece of toast that popped up on my screen. Turn all that stuff off. Notifications, background processes, anything at all that is going to keep you out of your flow. Do you see Usain Bolt texting while sprinting? No, because he's sprinting. That's why it's called sprinting. Remember that anything important that happens in the world, in the news, in your life, in your work, will come your way many times. If there's another 9/11, somebody will tell you. You probably didn't learn it by hitting refresh on your favorite news site. Something might happen. Someone famous might die. Is Lady Gaga dead? Is she dead? F5, F5, F5. Try to remain in your flow. Be wrapped up like a child is in the thing that captures your attention. Get that excitement back. And that excitement does not involve alt-tabbing over to Gmail. Multitasking is a myth. This is funny, but multitasking does not work. The optimal number of threads in any system is 1 thread. That is a computer science fact. And if you think you can multitask, you're wrong. And I hate talking to people. I totally can multitask. You can't. It's biologically impossible to multitask. The best multitasking you can do is think about a problem and then sleep. And then let the background threads do that work for you while you sleep. And then wake up in the shower with the answer. That's like the only multitasking that I even know about. But all you're doing is wasting time task switching. And task switching causes time. It's a context switch. You ever been working on something and the phone rings and you're mean to like your dad? why was I so mean to my dad? Well, he called you at work at 3 in the afternoon and you were totally focused on something. And then afterwards, like, I'm sorry, I was really working on something. Well, what could I have done? I could have turned off the ringer. And then I'm sad for like 10 or 15 minutes. That's the context switch. As I get back from that phone call that I screwed up, back to the work. Okay, what was I thinking about? It's context switching. Context switching doesn't work. Here are some things that you can multitask on, and they are few and far between. And they start with walking and chewing gum. But the number one way that I do multitasking is I work out while listening to podcasts. I never have time to listen to podcasts. I'm so busy. Well, if you're working out, listen to podcasts. I like watching TV. I unapologetically love to watch TV. And if I tweet about it, people are like, how do you have time to watch TV? Well, the rule is I'm only allowed to watch TV while I'm working out. So as soon as I stop working out, TV has to go off. So I got the iPad, and I've got like 7 seasons of The Wire, and I just run towards the iPad. It's like a carrot and a stick. That's what I've promised to do. If I'm going to be watching a show, I am always moving. There is no actual sitting on your ass watching TV for me. You have to work out. And if you make that rule for yourself, you realize that that is really great multitasking. Commuting and reading. If you commute on a train or in some way that doesn't involve driving a car, you can do that. Utilize your idle and waiting time. The iPhone has completely changed the way that I poop. I have no idea what we were doing in there before. Weren't you thinking, this is completely unproductive time, you know? And then the iPhone came along and Instapaper, and now poop time is good time. We set up these guilt systems. My friend Kathy Sierra has this great blog post about a guilt system. We have these. You know, think about the pile of books that you have. I'm not going to read The Ruby Way this week, but The Ruby Way has been on my desk for 3 years. And what happens is I move it in the stack. So every once in a while, I'll look at the guilt pile, the monument to my own stack of failure, and I'm probably not going to read all these, but I'm going to move The Ruby Way a little higher, and then I'll move the CSS3 down, and then I'll probably only read this much. But the guilt pile persists. I have actually had guilt piles last so long that the technology has become obsolete. From the moment I got the book from the publisher until it eventually just went out of business. Think about this for a second. And this guy uses it in the context of making money. If it is not helping me make money, it's mental clutter and it's out. Now let's get rid of making money. If it's not helping me to, what is your goal? Spend time with your kids, pay off your house, grow your business. In any decision, if you're going to do something, is that helping you with that blank, whatever that blank is for you? I stopped caring about my career when I had kids. So everything that I do, every decision that I make is how I can get home to my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old faster. I'm going to be going to a conference in Poland tomorrow morning, and they're mad at me because I'm going to be doing the conference and I'm going to leave that afternoon. And they want to show me their beautiful city. And I think that that's great, but the thing is, their beautiful city will be there in a couple of years. But my 4-year-old only has 52 weekends in his 4th year. And every weekend I miss, that is a weekend in his 4th year that I will never get back. So I'm going to be home for dinner on Friday.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. Rock on. So here's your homework, my friends. I want you to audit and sort your sources, the things in your life. I want you to think about scheduling work sprints. Turn off all distractions. Think about your inbox. And then go look at your personal toolbox. Notice that I didn't talk about Evernote or any of these fancy systems. It all speaks to what Brian was talking about. You can spend more time reading productivity books and making productivity systems when maybe all you need is a to-do.txt. Maybe what you really need is the will to do it and the recognition in your mind that there is a difference between being busy and doing the work that you want to do. You can find all of this stuff and a longer version of this talk up at hanselman.com. Thank you very much. Was that enough time? Oh, yes, sir.
Why do you need the week plan and the day plan? Why not just the list of things that you have prioritized and then take them from the top?
So,
Otherwise you get a guilt when you don't.
Sure. So why do you have a week plan and a day plan? So again, with every single thing that I've talked about here, pick the thing that makes you happy. This is not a religion. This is a perspective. And if you have a system that works for you, rock on. So none of this is dogma, okay? It's just a thought. But my opinion is that the number 3 is a great number. 4 or 5 is too much to hold in your brain, too much to focus on. 1 or 2 is not really working hard enough. 3 is a great number. So every day I wake up and I say, what are 3 things that I can do today? I may have 1,000 things to do today, but if I did 3 of them, I could look back on the day and say, that was an awesome day. Maybe it's 2, but whatever works for you. 3 is a great number. It's a nice round number. Then it allows you to scope things. But the 3 things you would try to get done in a single day are different than the 3 things you would get done in a week, because those things would have larger scope, right? Fix bug number 3, that's a day thing. Release version 1.2, that might be a week thing. And a year thing might be, double the size of the business. You can pick the amount of time that you want to spend on these things, but the rule of 3 allows you to just arbitrarily chop things up and accomplish something so that you feel good about yourself. So if the process for you is 4 or 10 or 20 things, whatever, but the point is to end the day without guilt, to end the day without psychic weight. Because, maybe I'm just talking to myself here, but I truly believe that we have had that feeling at the end of the day where I didn't do a damn thing today. I dicked around on Twitter, and I was at the client's office, and I was on the toilet for half an hour, and I'm billing the guy, so that was like a 30 euro poop. And we've had those days. You know what I mean? We don't talk about them. No one talks, no one puts a microphone on and says that I feel like such a phony today. So what do? We put the kids to bed, and we try to make the day not suck from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. We don't talk about it, we don't tell anyone about it, and we know who the other people are, though, because we see them on chat, because they're the ones with the green dots, while all the yellow dot people are asleep on corporate chat. And those green dot people, he's always up at 2 a.m. And I know he has young kids, and he's probably really freaking out, too. So why do I pick 3? Because it's a round number. Good question. Right, so the gentleman is pointing out that sometimes when you separate email like this, you are going to miss context. Yes, you absolutely will miss context. And the question is, have you put yourself on a treadmill at work that is a sustainable treadmill? If you have a situation at work right now where you have too much responsibility or too much email or too much whatever, and you're worried about missing out on context, then you need to change how your job is. You have too much to do. You shouldn't need to be constantly checking email for fear of keeping up. It's that very fear that I think we just need to let go of. I've got probably 500 emails. I usually have 0, but I'm on vacation, right? I'm here in whatever country this is. And you see how that works? Sweden. Yay, Sweden. No, the point is that I'm watching people, they give their talks and then they rush back to delete email. And it's just like, oh my God, has my job really come to this? Is this my job, deleting email? So I actually end up having trusted aggregators, people who are not willing to drop things. So I'll call them and I'll ask them what's going on. Isn't that funny? I used to have 1,000 blogs that I would read, right? And then who's the greatest blog reader in the world? It's Robert Scoble. He's always talking about how many blogs that he reads. So I finally decided I'm not Robert Scoble. He's a freak. And it's not healthy to keep up on that many blogs. So you know what I do? I read his blog. So I took the 1,000 blogs that I read and I picked 5 link blogs. I found my Scobles, and I read those 5 blogs, and they give me an aggregated news. It's like why we listen to the BBC News on the hour, because it tells us what's going on, so I don't have to watch all the other news. Find your aggregator inside of the company. Who is a person who can tell you what's going on, who can keep you up to date? I do less emails, but I actually have more one-on-ones with my boss. I told him unapologetically, if you're making me delete email, if deleting email is my job, then I'm going to get less work done. So let's have more 15-minute stand-ups, one-on-ones. You tell me what the hell's going on, and then I'll be doing work, because it's his job to read all of those emails. So drop the ball is what I'm telling you to do. Okay? Fantastic question. Any other questions? What a great crowd. What a very relaxed and mellow crowd.
Lunch.
Lunch, let's eat. Thank you.